In the misty coastal town of Harbour's Edge, where the sea whispered secrets to the shore and the fog draped the mornings in mystery, Emily Harper sought refuge in her art. Her studio, a weathered cottage perched on a cliff, overlooked waves that crashed like unspoken thoughts. At 38, she was the town's beloved artist, her paintings of stormy seas and fleeting light adorning the walls of local homes. But beneath her quiet smile simmered a restlessness she couldn't name. That evening, the annual Lighthouse Festival bathed Harbour's Edge in golden lantern glow. Emily drifted through the crowd, her auburn hair catching the light as she nodded to familiar faces. Her husband, Jack, a broad-shouldered man with hands roughened by years at the marina, stood near the bonfire, laughing with Sarah, who ran the town's cafe, their heads bent close, their voices lost to the crackling flames. Emily's stomach tightened an instinct she dismissed as the chill of the night. Later, as they walked home along the pebbled path, Jack's hand felt distant in hers, like a rope slipping through her grasp. "You seem off," she said, her voice soft against the wind. "Just tired," he replied, eyes fixed on the shadowed horizon. "Long day." The next morning, while the fog pressed against the windows, Emily tidied their bedroom. Her fingers brushed a slip of paper beneath Jack's side of the Beda receipt from the Seaside Inn, a romantic spot 2 towns over, dated last Thursday, the night he'd said he was working late. Her pulse quickened, a drumbeat in her ears. Why would he lie? Curiosity turned to dread as she rifled through their bank statements. Unfamiliar charges glared back: a florist in Brunswick, a jewelry store in Portland, a hotel stay. Each line was a thread unraveling the fabric of their 12-year marriage. That evening, Jack kissed her forehead and mumbled about drinks with friends. "Don't wait up," he said, grabbing his keys. Emily waited until his truck's taillights vanished, then followed, her sedan hugging the curves of the coastal road. He didn't head to the pub. Instead, he parked near the old lighthouse, its beams slicing through the dark. There, in the silver moonlight, she saw him, Jack, pulling Sarah into his arms, their embrace too tender, too familiar. The air left her lungs. Tires squealed as she sped away, tears blurring the road, a deer darting just beyond her headlights. Back home, she paced, the house echoing with silence, until Jack returned, his boots heavy on the floor. "I know about you and Sarah," she said, her voice trembling but firm. His face drained of color. "I saw you, Jack. Don't lie." He slumped onto the couch, head in hands. "It was a mistake. It meant nothing." "I love you, Emily. Please." "How long?" she demanded, arms crossed to hold herself together. "A few months. But it's over, I swear. I was weak, and she was there. Forgive me." The words stung, hollow against the weight of her hurt. "I can't even look at you. Get out. I need time." After he left, the house felt like a stranger's. Aimless, she wandered into his study, where a drawer sat ajar. Inside, an envelope marked "Private." Her hands shook as she opened it, not their accounts, but the marina's. Pages of transactions showed thousands siphoned off, transferred to an unknown account. And there, in Jack's scrawl, a note, "Payments to S." Sarah. Her breath hitched. This wasn't just betrayal, it was a scheme. The affair was only the surface. Beneath it lurked something darker, something that could drown them all. As the foghorn wailed in the distance, Emily clutched the papers, her world tilting on its axis. What had Jack done? And how deep did this deceit run? The night stretched endlessly for Emily, each hour, a thief robbing her of peace. Jack's absence left the bed cold, a stark reminder of the betrayal that now defined her world. Sleep was a distant hope, and as the first tendrils of dawn slipped through the curtains, she found herself back in his study. The envelope lay before her, its contents a roadmap to her crumbling life. She sifted through the papers again, bank statements detailing transfers to an account in Sarah's name, each transaction a wound carved deeper into her trust. Tucked among them was a note, written in Sarah's hurried hand. "We need to be careful. Emily can't find out." The words ignited a fire within her, a blaze fueled by anger and the sting of deception. Unable to sit still, Emily grabbed her keys and drove through the fog-laden streets of Harbour's Edge to Sarah's cafe. The sign read, "Closed." But through the window she glimpsed Sarah pacing, phone pressed to her ear, her face a mask of distress. Emily's breath clouded the glass as she watched, a gnawing certainty growing that this was more than just an affair. When Sarah slipped out the back door, Emily followed, her sedan trailing Sarah's car along the coastal road. They passed the town's boundary, where the lighthouse loomed against the grey sky. Sarah pulled over near the cliffs, and Emily parked discreetly, concealing herself behind a cluster of rocks as Sarah approached a man waiting in the shadows. He was tall, his features weathered and sharp, eyes glinting like cold steel. Sarah handed him a thick envelope, her hands unsteady. He flipped through it, counting the cash with a grimace. "This isn't enough," he snarled, his voice cutting through the wind. "You have 1 week to get the rest, or you know what happens." Sarah's voice trembled. "Please, I need more time. Jack is doing his best." The man seized her arm, yanking her closer. "Your boyfriend's best isn't cutting it. Maybe I need to pay him a visit." "No, don't," Sarah begged, tears brimming. "We'll get the money. Just give us a chance." He shoved her back and pulled a small pistol from his jacket. "Take this. If you can't pay, you might need it to solve your problems." Emily's heart stopped as Sarah hesitated, then accepted the gun, tucking it into her purse. What did she intend to do with it? Hurt Jack? Herself? The possibilities chilled Emily to her core. The man stalked back to his car, and Emily shrank deeper into her hiding spot, her thoughts a whirlwind. She needed a plank confront Sarah, alert Jack, call the police, but every path seemed fraught with peril. Her phone buzzed, jolting her. A text from Jack. "Where are you? We need to talk." Her pulse raced. Did he suspect she was here? Or was something else unfolding? She glanced at Sarah, who was heading to her car, the gun's presence betrayed by the tense grip on her purse. Emily's breath hitched. She had to choose: follow Sarah, face Jack, or seek help. But before she could act, footsteps crunched behind her on the gravel. Her heart pounding, she turned, straining to see through the fog. A figure stepped from the mist into the moonlight. Emily's eyes widened in shock. It was Rachel, Jack's ex-wife, unseen for years, her face a tapestry of secrets, her smile a quiet omen that sent a shiver through Emily's soul. The fog hung heavy over harbor's edge, wrapping the cliffs and the sea in a thick grey veil. Emily stood rooted to the spot, her breath shallow as Rachel, Jack's ex-wife, stepped out of the mist. The shock of her sudden appearance was still sinking in when Rachel spoke, her voice cutting through the damp air like a blade. "Emily, I'm not just Jack's ex-wife. I'm an investigative journalist, and I've been tracking financial crimes in this area for months. I know about the affair, the money, and the danger you're in." Emily's mind reeled. "A journalist? You've been watching us?" Rachel's gaze was unwavering. "I left that receipt for you to find. I needed you to see the truth about Jack and Sarah. But it's bigger than an affair. They're embroiled in embezzlement, and it's about to get worse." Before Emily could process this, Rachel's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, her expression darkening. "We don't have much time. They're planning to leave tonight with the money they've stolen from the marina, and they're going to frame you for it." Emily's stomach plummeted. "Me? But I haven't done anything." "That's why we need to move fast," Rachel said, urgency sharpening her words. "I have evidence, photos, documents that can prove their guilt, but we have to stop them before they disappear." Doubt gnawed at Emily. Rachel had vanished from their lives years ago, only to return now with secrets and warnings. Yet the fear in her eyes seemed genuine, and the promise of evidence was a lifeline Emily couldn't ignore. "Show me," she demanded. Rachel pulled out her phone and swiped through a series of damning images. Jack and Sarah huddled in shadowy corners, Sarah handing an envelope to a man with cold, sharp features, the same man Emily had glimpsed earlier with the gun. There were bank records too, showing large transfers from the marina's accounts to an offshore holding. "It's all here," Rachel said. "But we need to get to the marina. That's where they'll leave from Jack's boat. Second chance." Emily's throat tightened. The marina. Jack's pride and joy, that boat had always been his refuge. Now it was his escape route unless she intervened. "Sarah has a gun," Emily whispered, the memory of the mysterious man's handover flashing in her mind. Rachel's jaw clenched. "Then we need help. Do you know anyone at the marina we can trust?" "Tom," Emily said after a moment. "The night watchman. He's been there forever, loyal to my family. He'll help us." Rachel nodded. "Let's go." They sped through the fog, the winding cliff road treacherous under Emily's tense grip on the wheel. As the marina loomed closer, her phone buzzed a text from Jack's number. "Emily, help! Sarah's lost it. She has a gun. Come to the lighthouse, please." Her heart stuttered. Was Jack in danger? Or was this a ruse? Rachel read the message over her shoulder, frowning. It could be a trap. We should stick to the marina plan. But Emily's gut twisted. If he's really in trouble... Rachel sighed, relenting. "Fine, but we stay together. No splitting up." They redirected to the lighthouse, its beam slicing through the mist like a warning. The parking lot was deserted, the silence oppressive. Emily's boots crunched on gravel as they approached the towering structure. The door hung ajar, creaking as she pushed it open. "Jack?" she called, her voice swallowed by the shadows. A muffled groan answered. They hurried inside to find Jack slumped against the wall, wrists bound, a gag loose around his neck. His face was ashen, eyes wide with panic. "Emily," he croaked as she freed him. "Sarah, she's working with that man. They double-crossed me. She took the money and left me here." Rachel's eyes narrowed. "Where is she now?" "I don't know," Jack said, rubbing his wrists. "But she's dangerous. She's got a gun, and she's desperate." Emily's thoughts churned. Jack had betrayed her before. Could she trust him now? His fear seemed real, but doubt lingered. Before she could press him, a figure filled the doorway, blocking the faint light. It was the man from the cliffs, his sharp features twisted into a sneer. A pistol gleamed in his hand. "Looking for someone?" Emily froze, her blood turning to ice. Rachel shifted subtly, her hand edging toward her pocket, but the man's gaze snapped to her. "Don't even think about it." He advanced, his eyes locking onto Emily. "Your husband thought he could play me, Mrs. Harper, but he's just a small fish in a big pond. Now, you're all loose ends." Jack stumbled forward. "Wait, I can fix this. I'll get you the money." The man's laugh was cold and hollow. "Too late." He raised the gun, aiming at Jack. In that instant, Rachel lunged, tackling him. The shot rang out, deafening in the confined space, as they wrestled on the floor. Emily grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall and swung it, striking the man's shoulder. He roared in pain, the gun clattering away. Rachel dove for it, but the man kicked it aside, pulling a knife from his boot. "You'll regret that," he snarled, lunging at her. Headlights pierced the fog as a truck screeched to a halt outside. Tom burst in, shotgun raised. "Drop it!" he bellowed. The man hesitated, then lowered the knife, his eyes calculating. Tom held his aim steady as Rachel scooped up the pistol. Emily's legs shook as relief flooded her. "Thank you, Tom." The grizzled watchman nodded. "Saw the ruckus from the marina. Figured you'd need me." With the man subdued, Rachel turned to Emily. "We still need to get to the marina. Sarah's out there with the money." But as they stepped into the foggy night, Emily's phone rang an unknown number. She answered, her voice trembling. "Hello?" A distorted voice rasped through the line. "You think this is over, Emily Harper? You've only scratched the surface. Watch your back." The call cut off, leaving a chill deeper than the fog. Emily met Rachel's grim stare. "What have we gotten ourselves into?" "Something much bigger than we thought," Rachel replied. Sirens wailed in the distance, drawn by the gunshot, as the lighthouse beam swept over them. The sea beyond whispered of deeper secrets, and Emily knew this was only the beginning. The fog clung to harbor's edge like a shroud. As Emily and Rachel drove back to the marina, the weight of the night's events pressing down on them. Tom had stayed behind to deal with the police, ensuring the man from the lighthouse was taken into custody. But the chilling phone call still echoed in Emily's mind. "You've only scratched the surface. Watch your back." Rachel broke the silence, her voice steady but urgent. "That man, his name is Victor Kane. He's an enforcer for a criminal syndicate that's been bleeding businesses dry up and down the coast. Embezzlement, extortion, you name it. The marina's just one of their targets." Emily's grip tightened on the steering wheel. "And Jack? How deep is he in this?" Rachel hesitated. "From what I've gathered, he got in over his head. Gambling debts, bad investment, she owed them money, and they used that to force him into funneling funds from the marina. But there's more to it. I think he's been trying to get out, and that's why they sent Victor." Emily's heart clenched. Jack had always been reckless with money, but this, it was a betrayal on a scale she hadn't imagined. "He said Sarah double-crossed him. Is she part of this syndicate too?" "Sarah's a pawn, just like Jack," Rachel replied. But she's desperate. That's why she took the money and ran. She's probably trying to buy her way out. They pulled into the marina's parking lot, the second chance bobbing gently in its slip, a silent witness to the chaos. Emily killed the engine and turned to Rachel. I need to talk to Jack, alone. Rachel nodded, though her eyes flickered with concern. Be careful, he might not be telling you everything. Inside the marina's office, Jack sat hunched over a desk, his face gaunt in the dim light. He looked up as Emily entered, his eyes shadowed with guilt and fear. Emily? He started, but she cut him off. Tell me the truth, Jack, all of it. He exhaled shakily. I was in debt. Bad. I thought I could win it back, but I just dug myself deeper. Then Victor showed up, said he'd wipe the slate clean if I helped them skim from the marina. I didn't have a choice. You always have a choice, Emily snapped, her voice trembling with anger. You could have come to me. We could have figured it out together. Jack's gaze dropped. I was ashamed. And then Sarah. She was in the same mess. We thought if we worked together, we could find a way out. But it was a lie. They were never going to let us go. Emily's chest tightened. And the affair? Was that part of the plan too? He winced. It just happened. We were both scared, trapped. It was a mistake, Em. I swear. I love you. I never wanted to hurt you. Tears stung her eyes, but she blinked them back. I don't know if I can believe you anymore. Before Jack could respond, Rachel burst in, her face pale. We've got company. A black SUV just pulled up outside. It's them. Emily's pulse spiked. The syndicate? Rachel nodded grimly. We need to get out of here. Now. But Jack stood, a determined glint in his eye. Wait, I have something that might help. He hurried to a filing cabinet, pulling out a hidden compartment. Inside was a flash drive. I've been collecting evidence bank transfers, emails, recordings. It's not enough to take them down, but it's a start. Rachel's eyes widened. Why didn't you say anything earlier? I was scared, Jack admitted. But if it can help stop them, it's yours. Emily stared at him, torn between distrust and a flicker of hope. We need to get this to the authorities. Rachel pocketed the drive. First, we need to survive the night. Let's go out the back. They slipped through the rear exit, the fog swallowing their footsteps as they crept toward Emily's car. But as they reached the parking lot, headlights pierced the mist, blinding them. The black SUV blocked their path, its engine idling like a predator's growl. A figure stepped out, tall and imposing, his face obscured by the fog, but his voice was unmistakable cold, commanding, and familiar from the phone call. Emily Harper, you've been quite the thorn in our side. Emily froze, her breath catching. Rachel edged closer, her hand slipping into her pocket where she'd stashed the pistol from the lighthouse. The man chuckled, a sound devoid of humor. Don't bother, you're outmatched, but I'm not here to kill you, not yet. I have a proposition. Emily's voice wavered. What do you want? Your husband's little collection, he said, nodding toward the flash drive Rachel clutched. Hand it over, and maybe I'll let you walk away. Jack stepped forward. Take it. Just leave them alone. But Emily's mind raced. If they gave up the evidence, they'd have nothing to bargain with, nothing to expose the syndicate. They'd be at their mercy. Rachel seemed to read her thoughts. Don't, she whispered. It's our only leverage. The man's patience snapped. Enough games. He raised a hand, and two more figures emerged from the SUV, weapons drawn. In that moment, a deafening siren wailed through the fog, blue and red lights flashing as police cars screeched into the marina. The syndicate's men hesitated, caught off guard. Tom had called for backup. Drop your weapons, an officer shouted, megaphone crackling. The syndicate's leader cursed, his eyes locking onto Emily with a promise of retribution. This isn't over, he snarled, before diving back into the SUV. Tires squealed as it sped away, vanishing into the fog. Emily's legs buckled, relief flooding her as the officers secured the area. Rachel exhaled shakily, the flash drive still clenched in her hand. But as the adrenaline ebbed, a new fear crept in. The syndicate knew her name, her face. They wouldn't stop until they silenced her. Rachel turned to her, determination etched on her face. We need to take this fight to them. With Jack's evidence and what I've gathered, we can expose them, but it's going to be dangerous. Emily glanced at Jack, who stood apart, his expression a mix of regret and resolve. She didn't know if she could forgive him, but she knew one thing. They were in this together now, for better or worse. "I'm not backing down," she said, her voice steady. "Let's finish this." As the fog began to lift, revealing the first hints of dawn, Emily felt a shift within her. The artist who once painted the sea's fury now stood ready to face the storm head-on. But unbeknownst to them, a pair of eyes watched from the shadows, a figure cloaked in the mist. Sarah, her face pale and tear-streaked, clutched the gun Victor had given her, her finger trembling on the trigger. She had heard everything, and her next move would change the course of their lives forever. The fog had lifted from Harbour's Edge, revealing a coastal town battered but unbowed. In Emily's studio, the air was thick with the scent of paint and turpentine, once a refuge, now a battleground of emotions. She stood by her easel, a blank canvas before her, while Rachel sat at the desk, her laptop glowing as she uploaded the evidence that could topple the syndicate. Jack paced near the window, his face etched with guilt and determination. "It's done," Rachel announced, snapping the laptop shut. "The files are with my editor, the FBI, and half a dozen news outlets. They can't bury this now." Emily exhaled, a mix of relief and dread washing over her. "Good. Let's hope it's enough." Rachel met her gaze. "It will be. You've got guts, Emily, more than you realize." Before Emily could respond, the studio door creaked open. All three turned, hands instinctively tightening, Jack on a wrench he'd grabbed, Emily on a palette knife. But it was Tom, the night watchman, his weathered face grim. "Police have the marina locked down," he said. "Most of Marcus's men are in cuffs. Jack, they've got you on the list too, but you're helping him out, so that's something." Jack nodded, swallowing hard. "Thanks, Tom." Tom tipped his cap and slipped out, leaving a tense silence. Emily glanced at Jack, her heart twisting. Despite his betrayal, she needed closure. "I'm going to see him," she told Rachel. "You sure?" Rachel asked, concern flickering in her eyes. "I have to." At the police station, Jack sat in a stark interrogation room, cuffs glinting under the fluorescent light. When Emily entered, his head lifted, eyes brimming with regret. "Em," he rasped, "I'm so sorry for everything." She sat across from him, steadying her voice. "You lied to me, Jack. Cheated. Pulled me into this mess." "I was protecting you," he said, leaning forward. "The syndicate threatened you if I didn't play along. The affair with Sarah Hitt was stupid, but I thought keeping her close would keep you safe. I was wrong." Emily's breath hitched. "You should have told me. We could have faced it together." "I know." His voice cracked. "I was a coward, but I love you, Em. Always will." Tears stung her eyes as she reached for his hand, a fleeting touch. "I love you too, but we're done. I need to move on." He nodded, tears falling. "Be happy, Em. You deserve it." She left the room, her chest lighter despite the ache. Back at the studio, chaos erupted. The door slammed open, and Sarah staggered in, disheveled, a pistol trembling in her hand. "You have to help me," she pleaded. "They're after me." Emily stepped forward, cautious. "Sarah, what did you do?" "I took the money to pay my debts," Sarah said, voice breaking. "But they want more. They threatened my family." Rachel edged closer. "Help us, and we can protect you." Before Sarah could answer, the door burst open again. Marcus, the syndicate's cold-eyed leader, strode in with two armed men. He grabbed Sarah, pressing a gun to her temple. "Nice try, but it's over. Give me the drive." Jack squared his shoulders. "Let her go, Marcus. It's me you want." Marcus sneered. "I want all of you. The evidence now." Emily's eyes darted to the palette knife on her workbench. She inched toward it as Rachel stalled. "Kill us, and it won't matter. The FBI's already on your tail." Marcus laughed. "I own half the agents in this state." A shotgun blast shattered the tension tom, outside, taking down one of Marcus's men. In the chaos, Emily lunged, driving the palette knife into Marcus's arm. He howled, dropping his gun. Jack tackled him, fists flying. Sarah snatched the fallen pistol, aiming at Marcus. "This is for ruining my life." "Don't!" Emily shouted, grabbing her arm. "Let the law take him." Sarah hesitated, then lowered the weapon, as police sirens wailed closer. Officers swarmed in, cuffing Marcus and his remaining man. Sarah dropped the gun, sinking to her knees, sobbing. The evidence hit the airwaves that night. Headlines screamed of the syndicate's collapse, corruption uprooted from Harbor's Edge to the state capital. Jack was arrested but cooperated, earning leniency. Sarah agreed to testify, seeking her own redemption. Weeks later, Emily stood on the cliff overlooking the sea, her easel before her. A letter from Jack, written before his arrest, rested in her pocket. In it, he'd confessed his love and his flawed attempts to shield her bittersweet balm that gave her peace. Rachel's exposé won accolades, dismantling the syndicate for good. Marcus, rumor had it, was found dead in a ditch, betrayed by his owner fitting end. Emily dipped her brush into vibrant hues, painting the lighthouse against a stormy sky. Each stroke was a reclaiming, a testament to her survival. The foghorn sounded in the distance, steady and sure, echoing her newfound strength. She was no longer the betrayed artist of Harbor's Edge. She was Emily, unbroken, her canvas alive with possibility.